All right, so the question was, are we going to use the first math book for anything else? Well, not necessarily here, but I would definitely suggest being sure you understand those first 4 modules, because you're essentially responsible for that prior knowledge going into course 3 in this curriculum, which is in 8th grade next year for you guys, right? All right, so your Chromebook should be closed, your pencil should be out, and I would like you to turn to page 231. It's kind of bizarre, but this starts on page 231 because it starts in module 5, but it picks up right after module 4, if that makes sense. So they've numbered it like it's one giant continuous book. However, they've separated it into 2, so you're not lugging around that whole ginormous thing with you. But that ginormous thing is a lot, right? And that is really the beauty of ALEKS, right? The beauty of ALEKS is that it's breaking things down into small topics that you're ready to learn. The other thing that gets a little bit tricky in ALEKS is sometimes it's going to start to get harder. These are things you're ready to learn, not things you necessarily know. So it's important that you have a piece of scratch paper, or you have your workbook that you can do in the margins somewhere. So you're writing down and practicing the problems. It's great if you're organized and have a notebook and turn through it, or if you want to use the workbook to stay organized, or if you want to just use lined paper and keep that in your math folder to stay organized, because that really helps you. All of those notes should be used to refer back to, right? They're not just helping you learn it in the moment, but helping you to see, wait, what did we do there? How did I do that problem? Hopefully, right? Kaden, did you have a question?
Oh, I was gonna ask if I can do this.
You don't have a locker. See, here is my hesitancy in letting you keep it in class. A, someone else grabs it, and because I can't monitor it. B, you're gone for a long time. Maybe you fall suddenly ill and you're sick. Well, unfortunately, as you know, math doesn't stop and wait until you feel better. Unfortunately, it builds upon itself. So it's really important that you kind of have that. Maybe just keep it in your backpack. Maybe just keep it in your binder. I know some of you have binders. Maybe just keep it in your locker. So at least then you can say, Mom, can you let the school know I need this out of my locker? And they can get it quickly, right? I mean, you're welcome to leave it here. I'll make a box at the end of the hour, but I think as you are practicing for being independent, it's good for you to practice remembering that you have materials that you're responsible for too. And it definitely cuts down on time. So if you do choose to leave it here, make sure you grab it at the beginning of the hour. Make sure you have a pencil at the beginning of the hour. Make sure you have your Chromebook at the beginning of the hour and you're ready to work as soon as that bell rings, right? You should be in your seat ready to go. Especially now that we're about to start the 4th marking period, you're into the routine, you know what to expect, hopefully, and you know what's expected of you. So here are some really big phrases about what you will learn. So some of you might be like, I don't even know what she's saying. I didn't think I was taking another foreign language, right? So we have different vocabulary words. We have to be able to simplify algebraic expressions by combining like terms. Lots of big words there. So maybe you don't know, you've maybe heard some of these terms, maybe you're like, oh, I know how to do that, I've learned that in ALEKS, right? Using the distributive property to expand linear expressions, ooh, yikes. Adding linear expressions, subtracting linear expressions, finding the greatest common factors of monomials. It might be like, okay, I know part of this. I've heard of this greatest common factor business, but what in the world is a monomial? It sounds like some type of animal, right? Factoring linear expressions, simplifying linear expressions. That's kind of a lot. But just seeing those terms now helps us be looking for them. Be like, oh, I remember her mentioning we were going to learn about that, right? So again, on page 232, you'll see the vocabulary. These are things that you may already know, but many you probably do not. Check the box if you know what a coefficient is. Check the box if you know what a constant is. Hopefully you all know what a factor is, but maybe some of you have forgotten. Factored form, greatest common factor. Like terms, linear expression, monomial, simplest form, and term. So, we got to do some reminding. Here's your review of how to subtract integers. So remember when we have a negative 15 minus a negative 3, we are really adding the opposite. So we keep, switch, switch, or keep, change, change. So we're keeping the first term, changing to addition, and then that negative 3 becomes a positive 3. So it really looks like this. Now, since we have an addition problem, when our signs are different, we find the difference. So the reason we find the difference is because when our signs, this is with addition, right? When signs are different, we find the difference. Hopefully we're remembering these rules from when we looked at integers. Otherwise, guess what? Here's an example. This is back in your first volume. So there's a reason not to just toss it. So we're subtracting. We say big minus little as far as our absolute values go. Here our bigger number is 15. Our smaller number is 3, the absolute value of them, right? 15 minus 3 is what? What's 15 minus 3? 15 minus 3 is 12. But in this case, our absolute value bigger number was positive or negative? Negative. So our answer is negative. So that's how they got negative 12. Okay. So they have you doing a couple of these problems. Go ahead and take a minute now to use this as an example to try these problems. Remember, when we're subtracting, we keep, change to addition, change the sign of the second number.
We're gonna do the full packet.
My guess would be we will not have time to do it all.
How far do you think you're gonna get into it?
I hope. I don't know. That is my hope.
I'll just ask your mom if she's getting this done, getting the bottom of it.
how do we do that? I was saying that, so we started on the first page of module 5, which was 231, which is like the first page of that. And then we started on the first page. I have blue and I have color. Can you show this thing? So our signs the same, or are they different here? So we have to keep our first, so we rewrite 24. We have to change it to an addition problem. Plus, and the opposite of 81 is negative. So now we're thinking, are our signs the same or different? So we essentially have a positive and a negative that we're combining. So we always think when our signs are different, we find the difference. So you can think of this two ways. You can think of this as is like this, right? Where this is positive and this is negative, and these two things are being combined. So if our signs are different, we find the difference. Or you can rewrite it. We keep our first. We change subtraction to addition, but when we do that, we have to change the sign of our second number. So here you also see that you're combining these two numbers and your signs are what? The same or different? Are my signs the same or different? Any ideas? Well, I have a positive and a negative, so is that the same or different? Different. So if they're different, we have to find the difference. So I always take my bigger absolute value number. What's my big number? 81. Minus my smaller number, which is what? 24. Can I take 4 from that 1? No. So what do I have to do? I've got to borrow. If I borrow from the 8 is actually becoming what? A 7. So I have 11 minus 4 now. 7, 11. Nice. So what is 11 minus 4? 7. And what is 7 minus 2? 5. So now I have to go back to my original problem here. I have different signs. My smaller number is positive. My bigger number is negative as far as the absolute value of it goes. So now my answer has to be the same as my larger absolute value number. So my answer is what? Positive or negative, Camden? Are you on page 232? Because you have your hood down, so I'm trying to see where you are. Sorry, you have your hood up. You should have your hood down. So is the answer to number 1 positive or negative? Negative, because my greater absolute value was negative. So this was number 1. Number 2 Again, we can keep, change, change. So if we keep the first, we change our subtraction to addition, and we take the opposite of negative 16. What's the opposite of negative 16? Positive 16. Now can we do this? I hope we can do this. We're adding multiple digits. 7 plus 6 is 13. 3, 4, 5. So here we have positive 53. Okay. So now let's look at this next review. I realize we're going slow. I hope you're bored. Hope you're bored. Multiplying integers. We have to remember when we're multiplying, when our signs are the same, our answer is positive. But when our signs are different, our answer is what? Negative. We also need to remember signs for multiplication sometimes, right? That starts to get us a little confused. We really need to use a dot or a parenthesis for multiplication from this point forward, because we're going to start working with letters. And when we have multiple x's in our equation, it gets a little confusing when some of those x's are what we don't know, and some of those x's are standing for multiplying, right? So that's why we have to get used to using parentheses for multiplication or your little dot symbol there, okay? So they said, if you know what 6 times 7 is, 42, hopefully. Now, since our signs are different, our answer is negative. So that's what we're doing here. We're doing 3 and 4. Try those. See if you can do those on your own. So do these problems. Staring at your book isn't going to help you learn. So first we have to know what 5 times 8 is. So if you have your pen, you can use that. If you don't know, we should be working on flashcards at home. So that's just like 90. Yes. Do you need any of this after the monthly period? Do you need any of what? I would definitely be sure to hold on to it until your final grades come out so you can double check some things, because you know, I wouldn't trust me. Might want to check your grades in there.
I've been in your class and the rest of it.
Yep, I haven't graded the IB task, but it'll be in there hopefully shortly. All right, so hopefully you're thinking through this, right? You know that 5 times 8 is 40. You know that negative times a negative is positive. So our answer is going to stay positive. Here, you should know that 4 times 11 is 44. And you should know when our signs are different, our answer has to be negative. So this 44 is negative, okay? So now think about it. Did you understand number 1? Did you get that one? Did you get number 2 on your own? Did you get number 3 on your own? Did you get number 4? Do you understand those things? I'd like you to be a little bit reflective there. All right. We are going to look at some algebra tiles now. So I am going to share screens with you because I think that's what I'm sharing with you. Because I want you to remember how to get to module 5 in Reveal here. There are so many digital things for you here. So go ahead and work along with me. Open your Chromebooks, log into Clever. Tomorrow we'll play a little bit more along with these, but I want you to see and remember how we get there, because I know it does take you a second to get logged in there. So log into Clever, but this time, instead of clicking on Alex, click on this Reveal Course 2. It's purple, just like your workbook. And notice right here it says online activity. Well, if I add module 5 lesson 1, let me add this to your calendar here, starting today, maybe ending on Thursday. Then when you go to your dashboard here, it should show up in your calendar just like this. So then you can click on it there in your calendar, or you could do just what I did. Okay, I see that I'm in module 5. I know that 5.1 means lesson 1. Click there, and then you'll find the same thing. So when you click here, we're going to view this, and it brings us straight to where we want to be. So what I like, notice that this big orange bar on your workbook says explore. Notice, even though this isn't orange down here, it says explore. So here you can, do you see this here? Simplifying algebraic expressions. Hopefully you see this. So I could click assign. It's already in the presentation, so I'm not going to assign it, but I do want you to see where you can access it. And this is where you're going to kind of play around with it. So it says, simplify algebraic expressions. How can we use algebra tiles to simplify an expression? Some of you might be like, I don't know what algebra tiles are. Well, here we go. Are you ready? So Patrick, Santiago, and Kaya work at a restaurant each week. Patrick works 3 more than twice the number of hours. Ugh. So do you see Patrick? So he has twice the number of hours plus 3 more. That's 3 more than twice the number of hours as Santiago. So they said, Santiago, we don't know, so we're going to give him our unknown. You know, this is a little bit abstract, right? And Kaya works 2 hours less than Santiago. So we have to know what Santiago works and then subtract 2 from it to get Kaya. So I'm going to kind of show you what algebra tiles look like a little bit today. So they are writing these out as a combination. They want to know the total hours that all students worked. So if you see here, they said this plus this would give me the total, right? If we knew those numbers, we would add them up, right? So I want to show you here on step 3 of the Explore how we could use the algebra tiles. So we're going to take an X, here's an X, 2 X's, here's 2 X's, here's the 3, and here is the -2. Do you see how each one is one thing? What could we combine together? We can kind of rearrange these so that our things are closer to each other that are alike, right? So how many X's do I have now? 4. So I would write that as 4X. So here I have X plus 2X, that would make 3X, plus another X, that would be 4X. So just to give you kind of some foreshadowing, we would write this literally as 4X here. Now, we can simplify this because these have a pair to them, right? So I can say this and this would be combined together. What's 1 minus 1? 0. So I would probably move that out of my map. What's 1 minus 1?
0.
Still 0. So here they're saying 3 minus 2 equals what? 1. So I can't just write a 1 here because then it looks like for x1, it looks like 4 times 1 or 4 times x times 1. When it's a positive, what do you think I put in front of that constant term? There's a vocabulary word for you. If it's positive, I'm going to put a plus in front of it. If it's negative, what do you think I would put in front of it? A minus. Okay, so this is pretty basic and pretty simple, but I think seeing it with algebra tiles will definitely be helpful. So now they're walking you through this. Let me clear up my work. So talk it through. There's 0 pairs, right? These combine. So we would remove those. I'm removing a 1 and a -1, a 1 and a -1. And then I would rearrange to get that, okay? Talking it through. So if you have yours up still and you're able to get to 5 of 8, you can try this now. Otherwise, we're going to practice tomorrow as well. But you see, tomorrow, make sure you know that we're going there. You know how to get into Clever quickly. You're so confused because you're not following along with us. You're not in Clever with us. So tomorrow we're going to play with these algebra tiles. So we'll start with Alex, right? Do you think when we get started, we should close out of Clever tomorrow? No, we'll already be in Clever. You'll close out of Alex, and then in Clever, instead of clicking on Alex, we're going to click on this reveal. So we can get this practice tomorrow and kind of move on with our lesson. Real quick, I do want to point out a couple vocab terms to you while we have a minute. each thing that's separated by a subtraction or addition symbol is called a term. So this is a term, this is a term, this is a term, this is a term. How many terms are in this expression here?
4.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have variables. Do you guys remember what a variable is? What is it? Variables are our unknowns, just our letters. So what is the only variable in this expression? X. Perfect. X is a variable. Now we have 2 variable terms. What do you think a variable term is? A term with what in it? A variable. A term with a letter. Very good. So what do you think the variable terms are in this expression? 2x is one variable term, and what's the other variable term? Close, but we have to include the sign in front of it. So we would say negative x is a variable term. Another vocab you need to know is constant. Constants are just our numbers. Numbers by themselves. What constants do we have in this expression? 2, good. We have a 2, and what's our other constant?
4.
Good, but don't forget the sign in front of it. Negative 4, excellent. Now the very last vocab term I'm going to give you today is coefficient. Co comes before. So it's the thing that goes with your variable. So the coefficient is just the number in front of it. So the coefficient of this variable term is 2. The coefficient of this variable term isn't just negative, but it's negative 1. That's a weird one. If you don't see it, the coefficient, it's probably 1 or negative 1. All right. Have a fantastic Tuesday.
Thanks for providing your.
No problem.